My mother spent 18 years convincing my adopted daughter that she does not belong, so I made sure she'd spend the rest of her life understanding what it felt like not to be considered a family. My daughter Maya came home when she was 3 days old. The hospital bracelet was still on her ankle when my mother arrived to meet her and immediately asked if we knew anything about her people. I thought she meant Maya's birth family. She meant her genetics. From that first day, my mother treated Maya like she was a beautiful accident that had landed in a family she didn't belong to. The comments started early and never stopped. When Maya was 7 and got straight A's on her report card, my mother called it impressive for her background. When Maya's soccer coach wanted to move her up to competitive play at 10, my mother told people my daughter had natural athleticism that must come from somewhere else entirely. By middle school, the implications became accusations. My mother started asking Maya pointed questions about whether she felt like she fit in, whether she ever wondered about people who looked like her, whether she understood that family was really about shared DNA. She'd mention it in passing to other relatives. Adoption is so noble, though I couldn't do it myself, and watch for reactions. In our family group chat, my mother began a pattern of sharing photos of my brother's biological children with captions like, "the real grandchildren," followed by heart emojis. Nobody addressed it. When Maya turned 13, my mother started weaponizing her theories into public performance. At Maya's 8th grade graduation, my mother cornered the principal and said adoption agencies should screen for behavioral predispositions. At a family reunion when Maya was 14, my mother spent the entire evening telling relatives about the challenges of raising a child who isn't genetically yours, speaking about Maya as if she wasn't standing right there. Maya stopped eating at family events. She'd sit silently and wait for it to be over, her plate untouched. Then came the will reading. My grandmother had died peacefully in her sleep, and the lawyer summoned the family to his office. He had my grandmother's will and also a sealed letter addressed specifically to my mother. The lawyer opened the will first, going through the estates and bequests methodically. Then he turned to my mother and said there was something personal she should know. He handed her the sealed envelope. My mother opened it slowly, confused. But as she read the first line, her breathing changed. The letter explained that my grandmother's first husband, my mother's biological father, was not actually her biological father at all. My grandmother had adopted him after infertility. The records had been sealed decades ago. The adoption was closed. And my grandmother had never told her because in my grandmother's mind, genetics had never mattered. It was a 5-page letter explaining that my grandmother loved her daughter regardless, that bloodline had never defined their relationship, and that my grandmother hoped this knowledge might help my mother understand something important about her own daughter. My mother's hands began shaking. She set the letter down on the table and stared at it like it was rewriting everything she believed about herself. My brother asked what was wrong. She didn't answer. She just kept staring at the words. When she finally looked up, her eyes were wet, and she was staring directly at me. She understood. She knew exactly what this meant. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. She stood up and walked out of that lawyer's office, and she never came back to family functions the same way. She told people I had somehow manipulated the will reading, that I'd paid the lawyer to ambush her, that this was orchestrated revenge, but she couldn't explain how I would have done any of that. My grandmother had written that letter 15 years before she died. The adoption records predated my mother's birth by decades. The lawyers produced timestamps and documentation that made her accusations sound paranoid and unstable. People started treating her differently after that. My mother eventually moved into an assisted living facility after a psychiatric episode 6 months later. She'd go to the activities room and try to tell other residents that her daughter had engineered her humiliation, but without proof, she just sounded delusional. She sounds like someone finally caught, not a victim at all. Maya is 22 now and starting graduate school in genetic counseling. She doesn't hate my mother, which is more grace than my mother showed her, but my mother sits alone most days now. And when Maya visits on holidays out of obligation, my mother doesn't say much anymore. She just watches her granddaughter talk about her future, and there's nothing left except understanding. Understanding that she spent 18 years telling a child she didn't belong, only to discover she herself was never as biologically special or as legitimate as she believed. She understands now what it cost my daughter. She just understands too late.